welcome to Radio Free HPC. This is where we talk about supercomputing, high-performance computing, and other technology topics. I'm your Toastmaster, Rich Bruckner from Inside HPC, with my co-hosts, Dan Olds from Gabriel Consulting and Henry Newman from Instrumental. Now let's get to the show.
Hooray!
Well, welcome back, guys, to Radio Free HPC. This is the place where we do talk about HPC and other technology topics. And today I wanted to bring up something I saw Henry present a couple weeks ago. And his topic...
Henry Newman?
Henry Newman, our own Henry Newman, was
he's
up on
call.
stage
Okay.
in front of 100 or so people. And he was talking about I/O challenges for big data analysis.
I think you have the video on your site, right, Rich?
I do.
Okay, good. We'll put a link into that. Did he finish off with Freebird like he usually does?
You know, they kind of cut him off because he was part of a panel. I think he only got to answer like 2 questions, so it was kind of anticlimactic that way. No Freebird.
Dan, I usually sing Mick Jagger, Rolling Stones, Start Me Up, honestly.
When you begin the slides?
Yeah, that's how I start up. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Rich, thanks for taping that, and I hope I didn't move around too much, but it dawned on me that we're going to have a number of challenges with big data analysis that are going to impact how people view archives. And I kind of want to step through it a little bit. Dan, you know, feel free to jump in. Let's jump through it. So the slides are posted on the site. And the first page, I want to kind of talk a little bit about, well, what's the cost for a kilowatt cost? What's a drive cost in terms of petabytes of storage, and how many dollars it's going to cost to run your storage environment? And I kind of did this to kind of show that, at least for now, non-spinning media is going to be the answer to archives. Combine that with the whole issue of reliability. And, you know, with the hard error rate, and people have seen this chart if they've seen Radio Free before, but, you know, there's a big difference between enterprise tape and even LTO and the enterprise SATA drives that we're using in terms of the reliability. And what the hard error rate is you read this many bits, you're going to get a drive failure. And that's going to impact, combine that with the power, it's kind of moves everybody in the large archive world to tape. And that was sort of the basis of the talk, and that's why I put this up first.
Okay. And we're just talking about operating costs. We're not talking about administration. We're not talking about acquisition costs or anything. This is just straight the cost of electricity to drive these things.
Electricity, and then the underlying reliability in terms of, you know, the hard error rate of the technology.
Gotcha. Okay.
So at least for the foreseeable future, we're going to be doing tape-based archives in the medium of choice. But what I'm going to talk about really doesn't matter whether it's tape or disk, but I did kind of want to level set about what I kind of envision the challenges are for large archives as we move forward.
Okay, great. Well, let's drive on then.
So I think the archive challenges are, for big data, I think they're networking challenges. I think they're cost challenges, Razz challenges. There's going to be a scalability issue as we get into tens, hundreds of petabytes in the exabyte range. I/O performance challenges. We're not scaling I/O performance. There's going to be challenges there. And then, of course, you need to know what the metadata is. You need to have the data about the data.
Yeah.
So, and then I have some final thoughts.
Okay. Well, let's jump into that. So first thing up, networking challenges. And you have a sage saying here at the bottom.
Yes. Those who own the big archive own the big data solutions, is you can't move data around.
Can't move data around.
You can't.
Let's take a look at that and see what you mean by can't move data around.
So if you look at perfect world numbers, and this is 80% of the channel speed, assuming TCP overhead and everything else, and you're looking at, you know, an OC192 channel, which, you know, is 10 gigabits, about approximately, which, by the way, is the equivalent of a couple SSDs or, you know, 4 or 5 disk drives in terms of bandwidth. I mean, in terms of real bandwidth.
And that's a fast, expensive connection.
That is a fast and very expensive connection. I heard numbers bandied around of, you know, point to point, East Coast to West Coast, in the range of, you know, a couple $100,000 a month.
Holy crap. Wow.
Now, of course, that will go down over time, but data is expanding faster than network speed is going up,
It's not going to go down by multiple orders of magnitude.
whereas
Not in
data
the
is
foreseeable
going up.
future. And the data is going up by orders of magnitude.
So, I mean, take an OC192 channel. If you want to read all your data, your 40 petabyte archive across country or across that network, you're talking about, a year and a half. Perfect world.
Wow.
So FedEx would be a better solution.
FedEx would
Physically
be a
move the
better-
media, right?
From a media perspective, but then you've got your data out of your archive.
Yeah.
That's true.
You got to make a second copy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, OC768 is going to be the internet backbone. So if you own the backbone, you theoretically can get your 40 petabytes in a month. But I don't think too many people own the backbone.
No, it's a very, very small universe.
Yes, it is.
And actually, what are you looking at for transmission rates to today? If you were going to compare this to having it internal to your network, you'd be looking at what, OC192, which would be somewhat akin.
Everybody's doing OC192 is the equivalent of a 10 gig E approximately.
So inside your network, inside your data center.
Yeah, and this assumes zero latency. I mean,
Yeah.
latency it's just streaming bandwidth, no errors, perfect world.
Yeah.
And anything from an outside network is absolutely going to be slower unless you pay through the nose.
Well, there was an old John Massey saying, if you remember that saying.
I don't remember John Massey. So
John
go ahead.
Massey, the MIPS chip inventor.
Oh, that John Massey. I was thinking we had a neighbor down the street that was Nat Massey, last name of Massey, but I don't think it's the same guy. And he had some sayings too.
Probably not. Anyway, he had a saying that I love is, money can buy you bandwidth, but latency's forever.
Very wise.
Wise thing. So that's why, from a networking perspective, you've got to be near your archive, your big data archive, to do anything dramatic with it. So the cost challenges or business opportunities is, I'll make the statement on page 6, is those who control the archive own the big data solutions and the resulting benefits.
And actually, the first point on your next slide is one that I'm seeing again and again, is most enterprises, they anticipate holding on to their data essentially forever because they don't know what's going to be important.
Correct. The 80s example, of junk DNA, I think is the perfect example. But there's all kinds of other information that we're gleaning from archives that we didn't know was there.
Especially if you're looking for anything that's cause and effect.
Correct. I'm sure Boeing, and I don't know for sure, but I'm sure Boeing kept all kinds of data about the batteries, and that's how they figured out their battery problem.
Sure, absolutely.
You have to go back to the baseline data.
And you want that data that spans a long time period.
Correct. There's no way we're smart enough that we know what to keep.
Absolutely. So we're going to be keeping, that you're always going to skew towards keeping more rather than less.
And I'll give you a perfect example is there's data that the geosciences companies kept from 20, 30 years ago from seismic collections, and they get new algorithms that can extract new information.
From the old data.
Correct.
And like you point out on the slide, satellite imagery is another one.
And soon, in 2015, you'll have UAVs flying all over the country.
Even more data, plus sensors, plus everything else. And we're going to be keeping it essentially again forever.
The big issue is the industries that are successful with our large archives today and keeping them are industries that know what the cost of archives are and know the operational costs, and they have that defined in their budget instead of, oh, we have to buy a whole bunch more new tapes. What are we going to do?
Okay, so they're almost in the business of archiving. They see that as a core competency.
Yes. And it's part of their business framework. I think more businesses are going to get into, as part of their operational definition, is we got to keep archives.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right.
So Henry, just in general, what does it cost to archive something on a LTO tape for reasonable resiliency for a long period?
Well,
is there a number, or what's the...
Look at today, you get an LTO 5 tape for approximately, picking, I think, $50, and you get 2 of them. You got the slot costs in the robot, call it $30. But, there's more to that cost than just the LTO tapes. There's the management, there's the people, there's the migration process to new technology, there's the underlying software and scalability, and then
System time to lay that stuff down on the tape.
time to lay it, the time to read it back when you got something new. What if you have some new idea and you need to read your whole archive? Do you budget for that ahead of time or after the fact? So, I mean, Rich, to answer your question, there's this baseline cost issue that you can come up with based on how you're going to archive the data, but you don't know how you're going to read the data.
And there's a trade-off, too, between the accessibility of the data, whether it's accessible very quickly with spinning disks or more slowly through tapes. And there's a trade-off between the cost of those two versus the business benefit of being able to get it quicker.
Well, there's also the reliability, which I brought out.
Yes.
The first point is I don't think you can maintain these archives at hundreds of petabytes on spinning disk with the current disk reliability without an enormous cost in multiple directions. Because reliability is less than tape, you need more copies or more protection. And because you've got the power issues, you're going to need far more the cost implications of power. And even if you turn all the disk drives off, you got to leave the controllers up. And from what I understand, that's about 30% of the total power budget on top of the power just for the drives.
And the network problem that we talked about a couple of slides back is why you don't just throw this up in the cloud somewhere.
Yes, that is exactly right. And I don't think you can afford it in a cloud. Go price out 100 petabytes at Google.
Or Amazon, the Glacier.
Or Amazon, or whatever. Probably get it pretty cheap for Glacier unless you didn't want to read it.
Jumping into your next slide, you're going to go a little deeper into Razz challenges. With your saying is getting longer and longer here.
If you'll read what I'm saying is, it's sort of the same thing on every slide is those who own the archive own the solutions. I'm trying to make the case that you need to own your own archive. You can't outsource it.
Yeah.
If you outsource your archive or share an archive with other people, long term, you're going to be challenged financially from your business, and it's going to affect your long-term success.
I think you're getting there. So next slide, Razz is not easy.
It's not easy. And it's more and more difficult. And my point is you've got to migrate forward and plan for migrating forward in technology, even though media tapes might last 30 years. The interfaces to those tape drives, both the hardware and the software, it doesn't last more than a decade.
I found a box of 5 1/4 floppies a couple of weeks ago, by the way, and a couple of them labeled important, although I haven't seen them for probably 15 years. Oh, well.
It's probably your offshore account, Stan. Account numbers. Your Cayman Islands, your Swiss banks.
That must be it.
Well, that's okay, because no one has any device that can read that kind of media anyway.
Yeah, that's why I threw them in the garbage.
Yeah.
Even if that media was good, Rich is exactly right. Even if you could find a device to plug it into, you have a software challenge.
Yeah.
There's no driver for a 5 1/4 inch in a modern system. So tape drives began with, fiber channel 1 gigabit interfaces. You can't get those cards because they were PCIX, most of them. And sure, supposedly fiber channel 2 is supported, but that's end of service. Fiber channel 4 is going to be end of service. I mean, all of these things are going to have implications long term, and you got to budget for these RAS events. You've got to move your archive forward pretty quickly in terms of technology to ensure that it's reliable and ensure it's serviceable and ensure it's available.
And the other thing, too, is that as you move it forward, you're going to take the hit in higher acquisition costs and having to put out money to buy them, but you'll probably see a benefit from lower operational costs, higher density.
Potentially, but
you're going to have to run the numbers to justify
you've got
that.
to run your numbers. One of the big numbers that people run into today is floor space. Do you need to buy another tape robot or 2 or 4, or can you cut down to a smaller robot? The only one system that can read back 20 years is what, Dan?
Ooh, I'm going to say, I don't know.
No, Rich can answer this question.
Rich, were you paying attention during Henry's talk?
I don't think I can answer that question.
MVS.
Oh, of course. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I knew it was 3 letters.
So if you're going to archive in open systems, you've got to be planning for this. And that's one of my points
Yeah.
from previous from the business case is the geosciences companies do plan for this and they do budget for this and they know what they're doing.
Makes sense.
What you're saying makes sense, but on the other hand, a lot of these companies have no core competency in this kind of archival, or they don't have it in-house. So, I mean, that seems like a natural to outsource, right?
You're absolutely right, but you've almost have to outsource by hiring people to do it inside.
So a traditional outsource.
A traditional
On-premise.
source the archive inside your own network. I don't think outsourcing is going to work.
Well, cloud sourcing definitely won't.
Yes. It cannot be remote from your own environment. And I haven't even talked about the security issues and the implications. As you get more and more data in certain areas, if you outsource your geosciences archive, you don't want it hacked by your competitors. And your competitors in the future are maybe foreign countries with a corporate eye.
Mm-hmm.
So you put your geosciences archive in, and not to name countries, but if a country, the oil company is going to be bidding against your oil company, you've outsourced the archive, and they've hacked it, and they now have all the data, and they've got their algorithms, it becomes a big issue.
This data and the algorithms you use against it, those are going to become the new crown jewels of any company trying to take advantage of big data. Just like it is for Wall Street firms, geoscience firms, oil and gas, everybody like that.
And I think it's going to be for climate satellite data even. Correlations between climatic events, I think, is the next big challenge for the high-frequency commodities traders.
Oh, sure. They would love to get their hands on that, and they spend millions already on weather forecasts.
Yes. So the next challenge I see is the scalability challenge. And Dan, it does get a little longer here, but those who control the archive own the big data solutions. As more data is collected and the size of the archive grows, and the organization will continue to win. So my point is, if you can manage the scalability of your archive and you can extract new information out of your archive, which was 10 petabytes, and now it's 100, and then it's an exabyte, and continue to extract the information that makes you competitive, you're going to win in the future as whatever the industry is.
I think that makes a lot of sense. We're also kind of coming to the end of the era where we would sample data. We're now analyzing all the data.
Well, we don't know what to analyze. That was my point.
That too. But rather than just taking a sample of, a few shoppers' experiences that you can get online, we have the technology to go out and let's get all of the experiences and throw it into a big database, or just actually throw it into a big file, Hadoop the hell out of it, and pull our insights directly from that. Let's get all mentions of our company on this, or all mentions of that particular product or technology, which is just leading us to more and more data that needs to be archived, that we're going to need to be able to access and go back to as we have new questions, new algorithms, things like that.
Exactly.
But the namespace problem, eh?
The namespace problem is a real issue. The largest single namespace that I'm aware of today is about 55 petabytes in an archive, and scaling archive technologies is hard. I mean, how many namespaces do you want to manage? Right, and how does your HSM software scale? So it's not just, namespaces we know it in a POSIX kind of world, and objects as we know them in REST or SOAP interfaces. It's how do you efficiently use those namespaces to gather and make decisions, and then load leveling against namespaces is going to be labor intensive, because right now there's not a lot of good algorithms. They're going to break. There's load levelers. So you've got to be able to scale your namespaces to very, very large billions to trillions of objects numbers, and then be able to go back through them efficiently.
What are the trade-offs here between a very low number of namespaces versus a high number of namespaces?
How you search things and how you figure out where stuff belongs.
So while a higher number of namespaces might make you think that it's more efficient to search,
You've got to
you
then
got
figure
to
out,
call out every single one of them that's relevant to a particular search.
and what if you say put things using your previous analogy and put people by zip code, in your namespaces. Well, what happens if you want to correlate zip codes based on shopping patterns at Christmas? Then you got to go across multiple namespaces. What if you got, families living in 2 zip codes? Or there's just a lot of issues here. And people move. How do you move namespaces using that shopping example? And there's lots of other examples.
Great stuff, Henry. Tell you what, let's tackle the rest of it in our next session, which will be coming along soon.
Sounds good, Dan.
That's it for this edition of Radio Free HPC. Thank you for listening, and be sure to check back often for new episodes. Also, check out our website for more content, links, and a place for you to let us know what you think about the show. We're at radiofreehpc.com. Thanks again. We'll be back with another exciting episode real soon.